Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone.
Authorities in Williamson County, Illinois say that a man is facing a felony charge this week following a recent bizarre case in which he allegedly stole a piece of construction equipment in order to catch a flight at a local airport. According to reports, the incident began sometime on May 18th when officers arrived at the Veterans Airport of Southern Illinois. They had been called after someone had reported a suspicious vehicle, more specifically a backhoe that had been abandoned in the airport's parking lot. A short time later, the vehicle's owner arrived, explaining that the piece of construction equipment had been stolen from a job site near the intersection of Illinois Route 13 and Spillway Road. When police reviewed surveillance footage from the parking lot, they were surprised by what they saw. A man, later identified as Timothy J. Baggett, had been captured driving and parking the backhoe in the lot before walking into the terminal carrying a guitar case. It's now alleged that Baggett stole the vehicle and drove it more than 10 miles in order to catch a flight. I guess he'd never heard of Uber. Anyway, Baggett was arrested and is now facing a felony charge of theft in excess of $10,000. As you might imagine, when Williamson County Police posted about the incident on Facebook, the story generated its fair share of comments. One user stated, quote, "Now that's a redneck," while another commended Baggett's good technique, saying, quote, "He even put the buckets down. Good operator."
Representatives from the Hamilton Police Department and Ontario's Special Investigations Unit say that they are piecing together the aftermath of a horrifying tragedy this week after a young couple were allegedly gunned down by their landlord while trying to flee their rental home. According to reports, the incident began at around 5:40 p.m. on May 27th when police received calls about multiple shots fired at a residence on Jones Road, just north of Barton Street East in the community of Stony Creek. Terrified witnesses told authorities that they had just seen two of their neighbors run from their basement apartment while the owner of the property was chasing and firing at them with a gun. Sadly, by the time officers arrived at the scene, there was little anyone could do for the two victims. They were pronounced dead from their injuries just minutes later. The 57-year-old suspect, meanwhile, reportedly barricaded himself back inside the residence. A large police presence gathered at the home where a standoff ensued that lasted for several hours, during which time the man allegedly refused to surrender. Just after 10 p.m., witnesses say they heard multiple gunshots once again in quick succession. Authorities now say that there was an exchange of gunfire between them and the suspect, ending with the 57-year-old being struck and killed. While few additional details have been released about the tragic case at the time of this recording, it's said that the two victims were a young couple who were engaged to be married. The 27-year-old female victim reportedly worked as an educational assistant for a local Catholic school board, while the 28-year-old male victim was an electrician. None of the names of those involved have been released at this time. As for a motive behind the shootings, once again, few details have been released, though it's said that the situation was the alleged result of a dispute between the landlord suspect and the two tenant victims. The victims, who lived in a basement apartment at the property, had reportedly made unspecified complaints about the home's condition, saying that it was falling apart. Currently, both the Hamilton Police Department and the Special Investigations Unit are looking into the situation.
Authorities in Arlington, Texas say that a 42-year-old woman is facing murder charges this week after he allegedly murdered her husband with a hammer because he asked her to sign divorce papers. According to reports, the incident began just before 6 a.m. on May 24th when police received a 911 call from the suspect, 42-year-old Mai Tran. Tran allegedly told dispatchers that she had traveled to her husband's house on the 3200 block of Sweet Gum Trail and said that she had attacked him. When officers arrived, they found the victim, identified only as a 45-year-old man, lying in his bedroom. He had trauma wounds to his head and was pronounced dead at the scene. While speaking through a Vietnamese translator, Tran reportedly explained to investigators that the previous night the victim had called her and asked her to come by to sign divorce papers. The exact timeline of what followed is unclear, though at some point Tran said that she went back to her vehicle, retrieved a hammer, and brought it inside the residence. She said that she had built up anger towards her husband due to the status of their relationship and spent some time debating what to do once she had the weapon. She ultimately decided to attack her husband with the hammer, estimating that she had struck him 6 to 7 times in the head. She allegedly stated that she was fully aware of her actions and accepted responsibility for the crime. At the time of this recording, Tran has been charged with murder and remains in custody at the Tarrant County Jail.
Authorities in Providence County, Rhode Island say that 3 people are dead this week, including the alleged perpetrator, after a man shot 2 of his neighbors and his own mother before being killed during a vehicle pursuit with police. According to reports, the incident began shortly before midnight on May 23rd, when police in the town of Johnston received a call from a 44-year-old man named Thomas May. May stated that he had heard banging noises coming from outside his 15-year-old daughter's bedroom window, and when he went to investigate, to his horror, he saw his neighbor, 52-year-old James Harrison, outside with a ladder. Upon being spotted, Harrison allegedly ran back to his own property next door. When police arrived at the scene, May said that he wanted to file a trespass order against his neighbor, but Harrison was nowhere to be found. Multiple attempts were made to contact Harrison at his residence to no avail. The next morning at around 7:30 a.m., another officer was sent out to the property to serve Harrison with the trespass order. However, as the officer pulled into the court where the house was, he saw the 52-year-old drive by him in a dark blue Buick Encore. As he did, Harrison allegedly made a gesture consistent with firing a gun. The officer pulled further into the court to try and turn around, though as he did, he quickly made a startling discovery. A teenage girl was lying on the grass outside of her home, suffering from gunshot wounds. It was quickly confirmed that this was the same 15-year-old girl who had been involved in the previous night's incident. A further search of the area turned up additional disturbing discoveries. The girl's father, Thomas May, was found dead from a gunshot wound to his head in his garage, and Harrison's mother, 83-year-old Janet Harrison, was found dead of a similar injury inside her own house. The 15-year-old victim, meanwhile, was rushed to a nearby hospital and is expected to survive. Roughly 2 hours later, after a Be on the Lookout alert was released, Harrison was spotted in the neighboring city of Cranston. A vehicle chase ensued, during which time the 52-year-old allegedly drove the wrong way on local roads, dangerously swerved towards other vehicles, and struck at least one police cruiser. The chase came to an end when Harrison jumped a median and struck a rock, disabling his vehicle. Upon getting out and allegedly brandishing a gun at officers, he was shot and killed. At the time of this recording, authorities say that they are looking into the situation and that an investigation into all of the shootings continues.
Authorities in Alachua County, Florida, say that a 32-year-old man is facing attempted murder charges this week after he allegedly stabbed his roommate in the neck inside their apartment. According to reports, the incident began at around 5:45 p.m. on May 23rd, when the unidentified victim called 911. The man said that he had been attacked by his roommate, 32-year-old Omar Gutierrez, and that he had been stabbed in the neck. A short time later, police found their way inside the property, where they reportedly found the victim bleeding badly. He was safely removed from the residence, after which he was taken to a local hospital for treatment. After some tense back and forth, officers were able to convince the 32-year-old suspect to come out and surrender as well. At the time, he was dressed in what appeared to be some kind of cat costume. He was placed under arrest and has now been charged with attempted murder. Following the incident, the sheriff's office released a post about the incident on their Facebook page. In it, they joked that Gutierrez would be exchanging his bizarre costume for a green and white striped jumpsuit.
In other nightmarish roommate-related crime news, authorities in Louisville, Kentucky say that a 64-year-old man has been arrested and is facing charges this week after he allegedly shot his roommate during an argument that began over freezer food. According to reports, the incident began sometime on the night of May 20th when the suspect, 64-year-old Clifton Williams, discovered that his roommate had eaten the last Hot Pocket out of their freezer. This apparently caused him to fly into a rage, which quickly escalated when Williams started throwing tiles at the victim. In a later interview with police, the roommate said that he first, quote, attempted to fight back by trying to beat his ass. However, this apparently failed, causing the man instead to try and flee the residence. When he did, Williams allegedly retrieved a handgun. The victim reportedly yelled for him not to shoot, but was ignored, and ended up getting shot in the butt. That's when he ran off to get help. He was treated at a local hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. Williams was arrested several hours later and has now been charged with felony assault. He is currently being held at the Jefferson County Jail in lieu of $7,500 bond. Unfortunately, reports do not mention which flavor of Hot Pocket led to the attack.
Authorities in Bowie County, Texas, say that an 18-year-old is facing multiple murder charges in connection with a chilling case this week after he fatally shot 4 of his family members before engaging in a standoff with police. According to reports, the incident began just before 10:50 a.m. on May 23rd, when officers were called to a residence on Lemon Acres, just outside the small city of Nash. A short time earlier, a concerned coworker of one of the residents there had gone to check on her along with a family member when she failed to show up for work. They forced their way inside, only to come face-to-face with another one of the residents, 18-year-old Cesar Olalde. The teenager was reportedly holding a gun and confessed that he had attacked his family. By the time officers arrived at the scene, Olalde had allegedly barricaded himself inside. When police got on the phone with Olalde, he repeated his disturbing claims, admitting that he had fatally shot several people. Disturbingly, he claimed that he had to kill his family because they were, quote, cannibals, and they were going to eat him. Though Olalde initially refused to come outside, at one point threatening to turn his weapon on himself, eventually he was talked into surrendering. During a subsequent search of the property, police recovered the bodies of 4 people: Ruben Olalde, Ada Garcia, Lisbeth Olalde, and Oliver Olalde. They have since been identified as the suspect's father, mother, older sister, and young brother. According to reports, the family members were shot in various parts of the house before being dragged into a bathroom. At the current time, Cesar Olalde is facing 4 capital murder charges. He remains in custody on a $10 million bond.
Authorities in Maricopa County, Arizona say that a 20-year-old man is facing multiple murder charges this week following a terrifying shooting spree in which he allegedly shot 5 people, killing 4. According to reports, the incident began at around 2:45 p.m. on May 26th, when the suspect, 20-year-old Iron Byers, attacked 41-year-old Nicholas Arnstad near the intersection of 26th Street and Oak Street in Phoenix. The pair were allegedly walking along the Grand Canal Trail when Byers shot Arnstad in the head. He was found dead a few minutes later, by which time Byers had fled the scene. Later that day, authorities say that Byers traveled to Beverly Park in the city of Mesa, where he shot 41-year-old Julian Cox. It was shortly after Cox's body was found around 10:30 p.m. that police realized they might be dealing with a serial shooter. The third victim, 41-year-old Stephen Young, was reportedly found outside of a bus depot on Country Club Drive, just north of Broadway Road. Byers then allegedly walked down some nearby train tracks where he met and fatally shot the 4th victim, 40-year-old John Swain. Swain's body was found just after midnight. The 5th and final victim, 36-year-old Angela Fonseca, met Byers while he was walking along Main Street near a hotel. Byers reportedly shot her in the face after she, quote, made him mad, and she was found by police at around 12:14 a.m. The 36-year-old was rushed to a local hospital where she underwent multiple surgeries. She was the only survivor of the terrifying rampage. According to reports, Byers was initially arrested on a trespassing charge following the attacks, though allegedly admitted to all 5 of the shootings during questioning. He told investigators where they could find the 9mm handgun used in the shootings, as well as the clothes he had been wearing at the time. Surveillance video, as well as shell casings taken from the crime scenes, were also taken into evidence. As for the motive behind the crime, according to newly released court documents, Byers blamed his hatred for drugs and homelessness. All of the victims that the 20-year-old targeted were apparently either homeless or users of fentanyl. During questioning, Byers stated that his brother abused fentanyl and that he didn't like people who used the drug. At the time of this recording, he remains in custody and is facing 4 charges of first-degree murder, as well as 1 count of attempted first-degree murder. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.